But first, here's a striking feature of today's Newspoll. Just shy of 50% of us think the Albanese government does not deserve a second term, while just over 50% of us think that the opposition is not ready for government. On these figures, it's a choice between the unworthy and the unready. Now, for what it's worth, I'd rather choose as PM someone who, fingers crossed, might turn out okay, rather than someone who has proven to be an absolute failure. Because the longer this campaign lasts, the clearer the contrast between the government and the opposition. Partly because finally the opposition leader is speaking clearly and directly on the issues that matter to people that he must then win over to win. Here was Peter Dutton on the issue of welcomes to country last night against Anthony Albanese, who, let's not forget, tried to divide us with the voice.
For the opening of Parliament, fair enough. It's respectful to do. But for the start of every meeting at work or the start of a football game, I think a lot of Australians think it's overdone, and it cheapens the significance of what it was meant to do. It divides the country, not dissimilar to what the Prime Minister did with the voice. You think it's overdone, the welcome to country?
It's up to people to determine whether they have a welcome to country or not.
Fence sitting again from Albanese. And Australians are fed up with being welcomed to their own country. Well, as I said there, he sat on the fence, saying that it was a matter for the relevant organisation. This from a leader of a government that can't even open an envelope without acknowledging country and elders. When a small group of neo-Nazi extremists jeered a lengthy welcome to country at the main Melbourne dawn service at the Shrine, their actions were rightly condemned, because even those who find being welcomed to their own country insufferable should hold their peace during a solemn ceremony that honours the best of our nation. But this dissent will not stop until we have an adult debate about the forced adoption of these welcomes at almost every event, big or small. At an Anzac Day service, isn't it almost offensive to welcome to country the very veterans who put their lives on the line to defend it? Why do we even need a welcome to country, given Indigenous Australians have fought in almost every conflict where we have sent our military? After all, isn't the whole point of the uniform to unite everyone who wears it into one force, and that race and religion are secondary to their service of Australia? So why then try and divide us by race with a welcome? It's something that's clearly rankled a number of veterans.
I have a lot of veteran mates that haven't come today solely because of the welcome to the country. Because our friends have died for this country, for this soil, and for them to be welcomed is a slap in the face. And you need to see it from a different perspective.
And on that very point today, Peter Dutton said this.
Anzac Day is about our veterans. It's about 103,000 Australians who have died in service of our country. I think if you're listening to their sentiment, and we're respectful of that sentiment on Anzac Day, I think their majority view would be my read of our vets would be that they don't want it on that day.
Plainly, if this government is returned having 3 flags, not 1, and having 3% of the population put on a pedestal over everyone else, will be reinforced to the point of it being all but mandatory. Yet if Dutton is PM, he's already made it clear there will be a return to just one national flag, with the Indigenous flags kept for Indigenous occasions and places, and that welcomes and acknowledgements of country would be much more limited. Indeed, on the idea that we need a welcome to country every time Qantas lands a plane, well, today Dutton went further than any other leader so far.
Perhaps one of the more recognisable for many Australians is that Qantas reads out it's in fact an acknowledgement to country when they land at their destination. Do you think that that's an example of overdoing it?
No, I think that's over the top. I've very clear about that.
Have you asked for them to stop doing that?
I've just said that I think that it should be preserved for significant events for our country.
And personally, I think the opposition leader could have done more with this sooner in the campaign, especially because the resentment against the indigenisation of civic events crosses party lines. All this an ad to remind people of the sort of chaos that a hung parliament will bring.
So do you remember the last time that Labor and the Greens and the Independents were running Australia? Bad memories. It was absolute chaos. So if you reckon the last 3 years have been tough, then under Labor and the Greens and more Independents, it can only get worse.
Authorised by L. Follow at the Nationals, Canberra.
Now, that's a great ad, only I wish you'd been running for weeks rather than just hours. Right now, Dutton needs to go for broke. As I said at the start of the campaign, he should not die wondering, because this is a Labor Party that will stop at nothing to hold on to power. So he needs to match them and, frankly, not be scared of a negative ad campaign to remind people of what's at stake if this mob are re-elected. Because Labor are not scared. Labor will stop at nothing. Listen to this tripe from Senator Katie Gallagher last night, characterising Peter Dutton's demeanour in the debate.
What we saw from the Leader of the Opposition tonight was, a fair bit of aggro and interrupting when it came to that part of the debate, which I think we've seen throughout this campaign, and we saw it on show tonight. A lot of aggro.
Well, was it aggro or just healthy debate? Was it healthy debate and robust? Was it aggro as such? I know you like to paint Peter Dutton as aggro because it works well, but was he aggro tonight, do you think? Me
watching the debate, I saw aggro there, and I saw a leader, opposition leader under pressure, who was just prepared to interrupt and try to disrupt.
Let me interrupt you on that then. James, do you want to have a crack at that? Sorry.
Well, I think both leaders interrupted each other, and it's a give and take in these debates. And if Katie's watched any of her colleagues debate, for example, Katie's interrupting me right now while objecting to interrupting other people.
I mean, seriously, are the Libs really willing to be lectured by one of the so-called mean girls who faced accusations that she denied of bullying the late Senator Kimberley Kitching, or who displayed this sort of aggro against Liberal Linda Reynolds that almost sent her over the edge?
I did answer your questions to the point that you ground me to the ground and ended up in hospital.
Oh, you just alleged that we put you in hospital. You just that I put you in hospital, Senator Reynolds. You should withdraw.
Well, if so, you're the victim.
Not Ms Higgins. Is that what
Order, it is? Senator Wong. That's not.
Nobody takes pleasure in asking these questions. Nobody takes pleasure in asking these questions.
I'd like to respond to that. That was an imputation. Having two senators yell at me at the same time.
I'm sorry. Well, I don't propose to yell at you.
Aggro from two mean girls, and then that gaslighting. Labor will stop at nothing to win. Labor will use anything, say anything, do anything to win.
My word is my bond.
Word is my bond. Why should we expect consistency from a Prime Minister who fell off the stage and, despite the fact we all saw it, denied there was a fall, later admitted he fell, and then denied he fell all over again? I mean, that's the thing about Albanese. He tells lies, even when there's no pressure on him to lie. And it's because of that there could still be a change of government, especially if that old adage holds that oppositions don't win elections, governments lose them. 2025 is not an election with two charismatic leaders and a whole lot of big policy driving the national debate. Anything but, as I'm sure you've observed. Indeed, it's a hyper-local campaign with seat-by-seat battles in all 150 electorates, and it's almost impossible to track this in the published national polls, meaning anyone who says they know how the result's going to turn out on Saturday night, they are kidding themselves. Today's Newspoll is not good for the government because almost a majority of voters have worked out that this PM is not up to the job, because no Australian should want to reward failure, and certainly no Australian should want to keep a liar in the lodge.
Can't get any housing, we can't get rentals anymore, we have no future in this country anymore. Don't you think that's kind of ridiculous? No?
No, we're just taking questions from journalists.
Australians around the country who are unable to afford housing.
Why did you let 200,000 migrants into the country last month when we've got a cost of living crisis?
Young people being priced out of the housing market, people can't afford rents.
Divisive, dishonest, doesn't care.
Authorised by Ebull, Surrey Hills, NSW,